Het-Heru Nefer. Assalamu alaikum. This is Kasak Ma Het-Heru with another broadcast for you. And today I want to talk about accessing higher intelligence. So one of the things that we have to understand is that we're living in a society that's trying to basically dumb down the population. And they're doing this through music, through entertainment, through a corrupt university system, which kind of like stifles independent thought, doesn't allow for discourse or any type of interaction between you and professors in the education system. They're only concerned more so about instilling the established order or concept and perspective of academia. So, and I have many friends that are in the universities, teaching in universities, and I've also taught. And what you'll find there is that if you want to get tenure or you want to keep your job, you can't venture too far out of the parameters they set for you in terms of the acceptable hypothesis or the acceptable paradigm that is in place. So anyway, before we go into this, I'm going to try and make this a very short video because there's things I want to cover that are really interesting. But hit the like button for this video. And if you're new, please subscribe to the channel. Share the link so we can get this information out there and start the revolution. Now, in ancient Kemet, or most ancient traditional cultures, they reached a high level of civilization. And the way they were able to do this is multifaceted. One of the things they did was through the reincarnation process. So when someone passed on, that society then would look for the individual to be reborn within the family lineage, but more importantly, understand what that person focused on in terms of their field of study. So if you were a noted scientist, let's say you were into astronomy and you passed away, and they would identify you through an oracle system with the priests and priestesses as being born into this new family line. As a child, they would do readings and find out that you were this person incarnated again, and you should continue studying astronomy, and therefore you would build on top of the knowledge you had already established. So that's how that worked. And what then happened is we produced a nation of geniuses. And we note that in Kemet, one of the first multi-geniuses was Imhotep, and he was the advisor to Pharaoh Dozier. Imhotep was credited with building the first step pyramid, but he also did a lot of things. He was into dentistry, medicine, surgery, astronomy, mathematics. He was just a jack of all trades, and unlike the conventional colloquially of saying jack of all trades, master of none, he was a master of all. He was a multi-genius. And the way he was able to do this is because he was born into a society, a nation that, or a culture that really fostered such endeavors. Right now, you have to understand that the mainstream media is more apt to push you away from developing your intelligence. And they do this a lot with men because they manipulate the women. And for the men, they're like, well, if you want to get sex from these women, you have to be a certain type, a b-boy, a thug, and that's the type she admires. And that's just a way of them moving you away from higher pursuits. Because the idea here is that a civilization, it should be taking care of the people. You know, you should have free healthcare, free education, because that only contributes back to society. It helps society to advance. But because we're being ruled by the 1%, the ruling elite, the oligarchy, they don't want us to work toward an advanced civilization. You see, they want to covet everything, which is why you have, like in the Vatican, they have the catacombs, they have all this knowledge and wisdom in the Vatican, such as a very powerful telescope that can see into the deep recesses of space. But all of this stuff, they don't want to be available to the masses of the public. They want to keep the masses dumbed down. And this is why, again, when you see things like the Me Too movement about sexual harassment, well, a civilization that is really cultured and doesn't want its women to be objectified and sexually harassed would not put out images like those put out by Cardi B and Nicki Minaj and Beyonce. Because what you're doing there is you're manipulating the psyche of men. you know, because you know that men look at things in terms of the physical, and that's okay because men are programmed to look at the physical, because if you have breasts and big hips, that is good for childbearing and nursing. So they use those images of these women to manipulate men into being consumers, into being dumbed down, you know, into being emotionally reactive. So those individuals get rewarded while they have terms like the educated lane. You know, I mean, this is where they are, you're talking about shaming individuals who go for higher pursuits of trying to elevate themselves. And this goes across the board, no matter what culture you are, but some cultures more than others do reward and look highly upon men and women who are seeking higher intelligence, such as Asian culture. All right. So let's go back to when I was saying about Imhotep and the ancient Kemetic society, and most societies and nations from antiquity, was that reincarnation was used as a way to further a particular field or science, so that it would not be a lost thing, a lost art. Here we have very smart individuals, let's say, for example, like Nikola Tesla, and he makes all of these advancements only to pass away. And now no one's going to pick up the mantle and carry on the experiments that he was doing for free energy, for laser weapons, and you know, all kinds of things. So we lose the genius of that individual because there's no way to identify where he's going to be reincarnated or what family line he's coming back into. So, how are we ever going to, I'm sorry, Het-Heru said, I'm just going to read this. How, or are we ever going to change the mass collective agreement to foster opening the third eye? Well, the mass collective agreement, that's an agreement we made, and there's no changing that because we made that to have a fourth dimensional experience, okay? And the reason that most of us are here and going through the strife that we're going through in terms of struggling to be, to reach fifth dimensional ascension or become more intelligent is because we're here to correct something that's not right, and everything serves a purpose. So your agreement in being here was to help foster a new age, and you know, we're moving to the age of Aquarius, which is why we're on the cusp. You're born at this particular time, and it's a great time to be born, you know, because you're going to help many people and have them reach a higher level. All right, so let's start off by talking about smart drugs, and this is what we call as biohacking, okay? So basically, there are a lot of people who are diving into this area where they're experimenting with certain over-the-counter herbs and drugs to increase intelligence levels. And I've already introduced some of this to my magi's. One of the great formulas that I've come across is Neural Ignite. Now, this is a really good formula that you can take that not only improves memory, but improves focus and cognition. Another one is Cognitier, and this one I found is probably one of the better ones. I really love this because you can feel the effect. It's rather immediate. And you can find these on Amazon, all right? Now, the one thing about these smart drugs is that you shouldn't take them too much. And the reason being is because then your body adjusts to them and you won't feel the effect as what you used to. Now, I would say for Neural Ignite, it takes a while to kick in. And one of the positive aspects is it has St. John's, so you'll have a very positive feeling about yourself, which is really essential for learning and improving in terms of your intelligence. But the drug that I found that really has improved my life, that has taken me to a different level, was Adderplex. And I think that everyone should get this. This is like the atomic bomb of smart drugs. This is so freaking awesome. I couldn't believe it. And it took me about a week and a half to feel the effects of this. But when I did, it was amazing. I was just very focused. I wanted to just put in extra time working. I had a more positive perspective on life. And I found that my work, the accuracy of what I was doing was 100%. So I think this smart drug is probably one of the better ones I've come across. And like I said, it has actually changed my life. So you can find this one on, I believe, Amazon as well. So, you know, if you get an opportunity, if you're a college student, definitely put yourself on this. Don't take it every day because I said your body will adjust, and you don't want that because you won't feel the effects, or you'll have to increase the dosage. But it's believe me, it's a freaking wonder drug. You know what I mean? I wish I had found this when I was in college. You know, I would have done a lot better on that. So anyway, so those are some of the smart drugs you want to kind of dial into because they're going to help you. And a lot of the education system, they don't look at intelligence from a multifaceted perspective. They look at intelligence as just rote memory. So they're saying that the basis of intelligence, of grading intelligence in this day and age is if you can regurgitate the information that they're giving you. And that's not intelligence at all. That's just recall. All right. So we have to get that straight. We're never going to be a society that produces another Nikola Tesla or a Imhotep if we don't get into the understanding that recall is not intelligence. What is intelligence is Tahuti, it's wisdom. Intelligence is not Sebek. Sebek is logical, factual thinking. That's not intelligence. Because the reality is I can take you into a trance state, a deep meditation state, and feed you names, definitions, and then you can retain that in long-term memory and spit that back out. But the idea of being able to be innovative and inventive, you will not have that. You will not possess that. You only just have memory, long-term memory, and you have a good recall, probably like a 95% recall of the information I give you in trance state. But that's not good. That's not really intelligence on the level of Nikola Tesla or Imhotep. All right. And I'm not going to talk about Einstein, you know, I'm not Einstein, I'm sorry, but Thomas Edison, because he stole a lot of his inventions and he really wasn't an innovator, an inventor. So the next thing we can go into is understanding that part of gaining access to higher intelligence is accessing the Akashic records. And that takes a lot of a process to go through. And you have to be an initiate to be able to go in there and access that type of wealth of information that's stored in the psychic realm. Another thing that can be done is that we work with, and we need to explore this even more, which I think is phenomenal, is possession, or let's put it this way, evocation. All right. Now, what do I mean by that? When you go into a trance state, a meditative state, you understand that you are subjecting yourself to nonlinear space and time. So you can travel to any point you can travel to any point that you want and access information by historical figures. So in other words, if I wanted to be Da Vinci, I can access the spirit of Da Vinci and come out and be able to act as if I am him. And my talents and everything that I exhibit will be in accord with the historical representation of Da Vinci, if that makes any sense. So, you know, when you are in a trance state, any type of post-hypnotic suggestion is taken in and acted upon. So you can possess these historical figures and possess not only just their personality types, but their talents as well. And that is very, very important. And this is why when you look at ancient cultures, such as the Native American cultures, the ancient China, you'll see that they had a whole field of this whole animal, what Western science says is animal worship, but it's taking on the attributes of certain animals, tigers, monkeys, and things of that nature, because those were skills that one could acquire. And if you look at martial arts systems, they have, you know, crane style, tiger style, monkey style, all of that. So that's kind of like coming out of all of that. But the idea is that these talents can be accessed through alternate consciousness, to alternate states, and through hypnotic trance induction or hypnosis, you can go into that state and access those talents. Now, the Russians were the first to pioneer this, and they were doing this by having students access famous painters, and they were coming out of the trance state and they could paint like on a master level. But it took about 6 months for them to really get into that deep trance state to access that talent. But nevertheless, they were able to do it. All right. And there's other ways that we can speed up the process. One of the things that I use, and I think that's very, very effective, is synchronicity. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And you can get Dr. Kirby Surprise's book, which gives you the details on synchronicity itself. But let me just greet the Magi's or the magicians that have come in. Het-Heru Aset and Zahai, and what is it? Shari. Tepu. And I want to just let you guys know that I have set up a PayPal account. So if you guys want to donate, I would be very thankful. So there's the link. You know, if you want to donate to the PayPal account, you can donate how much ever you want, $2, $5. It would be greatly appreciated. I would say that, what is it called? Thank you in the Kemetic language. Anyway, moving forth, Dwa'u is what I was meaning to say, Dwa'u. When we talk about synchronicity, what we do is we talk about the aligning of things that are fortuitous for you. In other words, so the way I use synchronicity, and you should get into this, is a term that was coined by the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, is that when you start, for example, if you're thinking about somebody and suddenly they appear, that's a synchronistic event, right? But the way that we can, and this is usually the way that the modern New Age and these practitioners look at synchronicity in terms of the aligning of certain events so it's fortuitous for the person. But the way I use it is to access certain information, because we know we're living in an energetic universe, right? And that it responds to you. So in other words, if I want certain information that's not readily accessible, I will ask for the information to come to me. And suddenly I will find that whether I'm sitting watching a TV program or working on a computer, the information pops up. And that's what we call the synchronistic event. Now, the way this is done is first and foremost, you sit down and you meditate on the information you want. You know, say, for example, is like, I want information on where I can, what field should I get into that will pay the most amount of money for me? And that's a legitimate question. You meditate on that for about 5 to 10 minutes, right? And then after that, we know from Dr. Kirby Surprise's book on synchronicity, one of the things that activates synchronicity is caffeine. So sometimes I will take like a caffeine pill, and after I do that, and then immediately I will confront, or immediately what will happen and manifest is a synchronistic event. And it could be somebody talking to me and saying, you know what, I was watching TV and I heard about learning cold fusion programming is paying really a lot. And that is an indication of you know, the energetic universe responding to you and giving you the information you need. Okay, that's accessing higher intelligence. And believe me, it works. It's a wonderful thing, because you'll find it to be very eerie and weird, right? So I'll give you an example. There are people I go to that will give me consult. I have my own diviners or oracle readers. And one of the oracle readers I went to, he told me that, well, you need to move. Well, and your move needs to be August 1st to your new apartment, right? And I was like, okay. So I meditated upon that, because I wanted to get information on like where the right city, the right location, and everything like that. And the first thing that happened, well, actually two things that happened, which was so eerie, was the first thing that happened was a friend of mine who I'd known a long time she said, well, I just want to say goodbye. I'm moving August 1st to Florida. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And then the next thing I know, I was doing a consulting job with this production company that came to me and said, well, we're going to move our offices August 1st. And I was like, okay, this is weird. Two people telling me they're moving August 1st, exactly the time that my diviner told me I should move. So that's another example of the synchronicity events trying to tell you and assist you with something. And this is a power that we all can access and tune into, because we're trying to use the left brain. The left brain is very limited in what it can perceive. You know, by Bashir, Daryl Anka, you know, he is a channeler, and he channels Bashir. And the one thing that he talks about is that there's the higher mind and the lower mind. The lower mind can only see things subjected to linear time and space. The higher mind is beyond that. It can see the whole totality of the picture, meaning that it's like a domino effect. You can't see where one action on your part can affect a multitude of things. You can't see that. Only the higher mind can see that. The limited mind can only see that individual piece or component. So you have to think in terms of the bigger picture, and the only way to think in terms of the bigger picture is the accessing the higher intelligence through the energetic universe. All right. So just keep that in mind, that is what you're looking to do, is access the higher intelligence through the right brain and not the limited left brain perspective. And too many scholars in today's world think they're so bright and so intelligent, but what they're really doing is they've corrupted all these fields of study because they've separated them and not allowed them to tie into each other to form this holistic idea and principle of life. You know, I don't understand how you can look at things and separate church and state. How do you do that? That shouldn't be. But, you know, I understand it from a Western perspective because religion is corrupted anyway. So maybe it's better that we don't have them two tied together. But the idea is if you understand the universe, you understand God, it doesn't contradict how the state is formed. Because in ancient Africa, when we look at ancient Africa, we know that they formed the community in terms of what they call fractals, or according to a hierarchy. And that hierarchy mirrored the alignment of the stars. That hierarchy mirrored the actual science of all that there was. There was no separation between things, all right? And this is because we saw one thing as analogous to another thing, and they had that connection. All right. So, for example, God was not just seen as God, but God was seen as a great ancestor or great elder. All right. And there was always, when you look at the structure and hierarchy of the ancient nations and states, there was always a place for the honored ancestor. And they never forgot that individual. All right. So anyway, I'm going off the subject here, but let me just get back into the synchronistic events where information comes to you and aligns with your thoughts and your beliefs and what you want. All right. And this is probably one of the more easier ways that we can access higher intelligence is by communicating with, as I said before, the energetic universe. As long as you see that the world, the outside world, which is an erroneous term, there is no outside world, but we'll just use that to facilitate this conversation. As long as you look at the outside world as being static, as objectified, meaning that it is not, you cannot interact with it, then you are not understanding the true essence of what life is about, which is intelligence. All right, understand that you're dealing with a multitude of intelligences, whether you want to call them spirits, gods, entities, angels, demons. There are intelligences out there that can readily communicate with you. And that brings me into my next subject, that you can start to work on the process of evocation, evoking spirits that can give you counsel, that you can talk with, interact with, that can give you a plethora of information and almost any subject matter you want. Now, we have to differentiate between the two. There's evocation and invocation. To invoke something is to bring it from within, okay? And that's what we are looking to do so that we can encapsulate the talent of that particular spirit. So if you want to get good at playing the violin, I used to play the violin, you would contact the spirit that deals with that talent of music. Or if you want to get good at mathematics, you would contact that spirit that deals directly with that particular field of math. Or if you want to be a Don Juan, you know, a romantic lover, then there is a spirit that deals with that. So you can access that intelligence, and there is a ceremonial process that you can go about to invoke that energy. And what you have to do is you have to allow the energy to encompass you, going back to what I said previously, on possession, and allow the energy to come within you and to work its magic. And that's how you become a genii, a genius, all right? Or a savant, or however you want to call it. So I want to reference a couple of books for you to get you started on that journey. One of the better books, and it's a very simplified way to look at this, is called Summoning Spirits, The Art of Magical Evocation. And this book is good because it takes you through all the different spirits and what they cover. So, and they even tell you what the spirit will look like, so you know that when it manifests, if you want it to manifest, because it doesn't have to manifest, you'll know. So it talks about the sphere of Venus. The spirit appears as a young man wearing a green robe that is Roman in appearance as it hangs over his shoulder. He has a short blonde hair and green eyes and carries a harp made of horns. So, you know, it takes you to there. And then you have the Archangel Michael, and then you have all these other spirits that you can tune into. And it's really wonderful, and also gives you the sigils. And the sigils are very important because these are the pictorial representation of the spirits. It allows you, and because all of this already exists in the Akashic records or the ether. So when you writing out the sigil, it activates that spirit and it calls it forth. All right. So again, this is summoning spirits, the art of magical evocation. And if you're aspiring to be a master magi, then you should tune into these books. Another book, which is very good. Hold on a second. Let me put my sexy glasses on. All right. Okay, there we go. All right. This is Francis Bardham's book, and he is a master at this. The practice of magical evocation, and he really takes you to everything. And he lists so many entities that can assist you with just about anything. And I refer to this book often, but it's a very dense book to get through. And if you're starting out in magic, I wouldn't recommend this book right away, but this is one to put on your bookshelves. And let me just go to, he also has the sigils in here. Let me see. Yeah, he lists, oh, here we go. Every type of field, if there's any type of field you're looking to get into and master, he definitely, even if you want to master magic, he gives you the entity that can help you, or the spirit that can help you with magic. Let me find one that's really, really good here. Even if you want to, for example, hold on a second. I should have picked one that's good. Liathatha, it's hard to pronounce that one. The 19th genius teaches the magician how to achieve a high intelligence, excellent memory, and marvelous judgment. Should the magician ever take a wrong step in his actions, this genius will help him to compensate for it. Apart from this, the magician will be taught how to raise or increase love with men and women, friends and enemies by magic Kabbalistic methods. So this is one spirit that can teach you and help you in that field, in that area. And then he goes on to another one. It says this 24th genius will tell the magician banning formulae by which he can control dangerous animals, influence thieves, so that they restore the stolen goods. So everything in here. So again, this esoteric knowledge is something that the major university systems will shun, okay? But understand this very clearly, that there is a component to all these major institutions, that they have secret societies that they work with, and these secret societies are delving into all of this. And this is how the ruling elite have become geniuses. Like I told you, they have all kinds of secret knowledge and occult wisdoms that they have coveted throughout the centuries. And this is another good book. And I think if you're starting out, you should get this book because it also has the mantras to invoke the different spirits and the different skill sets that you want to encapsulate. This is the Metu Netta Volume 6 by Ra'u Nefer Amen. And as I said, it lists the different particular fields. So if you're looking, let's see, for example, if you're into film, if you're into finance, if you're into writing, you know, there are spirits here that you can invoke that can help you to excel in those areas, all right? So I want you to take away from this idea that you have to start looking at non-conventional means because you're dealing with a society that's corrupt and is trying to hamper your progress, all right? And if you follow the rules of the society, what you're going to be is just a cog in a wheel. You're going to be just another individual fostering a corrupt society that hampers the advancement of human evolution. We need to evolve and ascend to the fifth dimensional knowledge and wisdom. And the only way to do that is that we've got to look at things in a very different perspective. There are all of these good jewels and nuggets that are on the peripheral that we're not looking at because society is scaring us through the mainstream media to tell us that, oh, spirits are evil, oh, invocation and possession is evil. And this is exactly why everything is set up to be fear-based. You know, they're trying to scare you away from advanced knowledge. All right. Oh, Het-Heru. Now let me get this. I'm not even going to try, brother, because I am going to like mess up your name. Apuhuaru. So Heru Nefer. So, oh, you just signed up, and then let's see, you just signed up for the coaching. Thank you, Het-Heru, and I'll get back to you on that. And also another thing at the one of the things is if you can get on a very simple level, what I found is that peppermint is good for the digestive system, but peppermint also increases memory and intelligence. It pumps more blood to the brain, and it's very helpful. So if you can get some peppermint pills or just take a little bit of peppermint, not too much, you don't want too much sugar in your diet, but this will help you in terms of if you have a presentation at work, take a little bit of peppermint and you'll find that your oratory skills become better, increase, more precise, you're able to think more clearly, you have more energy. But going back to, again, and I must say this, I must proselytize that Adderplex has changed my life. If you want to talk about smart drugs, if you guys have seen that movie called Limitless, where the guy takes these pills and he has super intelligence, this is what they should have been talking about, because this thing will have you take off, man, in a very positive way. You know, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but I have my own startup company, right? So I'm going to let you in a little secret here. Don't tell anybody about this. And it's not about that controversy about me and Snow White in Disneyland. Yes, I did date her and it didn't work out well, okay? She kept getting weird on me, like asking me about like cream in my coffee and offering me Oreo cookies and black and white cookies. And I don't know, she was weird, you know. So that relationship didn't work, but that's another discussion for another time. But anyway, I forgot what I was talking about now. All right. Somebody remind me, what was I talking about? What thought thread was I on? I just departed from that, you know. No, hey, Tiffany, Het-Heru, no, there are no side effects. And that's great about Adderplex. There are absolutely no side effects. Well, there is one side effect. If you don't like working, then don't take this, because this, when you take this, it will encourage you to keep working. It'll, in a very positive way, because I found myself more focused, more determined, and I wanted to get the job done. I wanted to get the job done in a very positive way. You know what I mean? You know, you ever take like, you ever take a caffeine pill like this, and then, or you drink coffee and you're a bit jittery? That's not a good feeling. You know, this does not do this. None of these will give you a jittery feeling. It gives you a positive feeling. And in fact, let me just backtrack. If you're going to take the caffeine pill, you should take 2 caplets of 250 milligrams each of L-theanine. That will get rid of the jitteriness from the caffeine pill. Or you could drink coffee and then take the L-theanine, 1 cup of coffee. And what that will do is it will give you the focus of the caffeine, but not the jitteriness. And it's a really good focus, okay? So that will help you. But my point was that these universities now need to understand that in order to increase the intelligence and the output of the students, you got to take a more holistic look at these things. That you can't just say, well, we're just going to teach a memorization and that's it, and we're going to grade students on that, because that's mind control. That's programming. That's not turning out Imhoteps or Nikolai Teslers. You know, it's not doing that, and that's why I chose very early on not to be a part of that system. And I had to go and experiment and get into the secret societies where they had the occult wisdom and knowledge that they were keeping. And we know that the ruling elite, they communicate with interdimensional beings and get knowledge and wisdom from them. We all know that. That's very common knowledge in the conspiracy theory arena, you know? So I can't emphasize this enough. Don't follow the mainstream. You have to depart from that if you want to reach higher and higher levels of wisdom and knowledge and magic. Your goal should be to be a master magician. And throughout time in history, there were men and women who excelled and exceeded. And the only way they were able to do this was by breaking the conventional thought and the conventional patterns and practices of the mainstream society. If you go along according to what they say, you're going to be just a robot. All right? And none of us want to be that way. And I'm saying, especially for your children, start raising them as geniuses or genii. Stop throwing them into a system that stifles their development, their creativity, and their growth. I had a terrible time when I was younger in school because I was so right-brained and I asked a lot of questions and they couldn't answer my questions, you know, and they were frustrated at the way I learned because I learned through tactile. You know, there's auditory, tactile, kinesthetic, visual, and you know, I didn't want to learn from the traditional Greek approach where it was all about one individual in the hierarchy standing in front of the classroom, teaching and lecturing, and you just had to absorb. I didn't feel that was right, and it's not right. So we have to depart from that and start looking at things in a very different way if we want to reach the higher level, if we want to be Imhoteps, all right? So get these books, start with that, and if you get a chance, donate to my PayPal campaign. And if there's any questions you have that I didn't cover in terms of the books, the mantras, any more smart drugs that you're interested in, or how to really work the synchronicity, you're free to email me at kasank@gmail.com. I try to respond to everyone and help you out. If I don't get back to you in a timely manner, please forgive me. I'm very busy, you know, traveling the world, dating different movie stars and things of that nature, you know, my escapades, you know. So give me time and I will respond. That's all I have to say. So again, I'm dedicating this broadcast to Imhotep, the multi-genius who pioneered every field, almost every field there were, from being a dentist, being an engineer, to being an astronomer, mathematician. He did it all. And we have to give much praise to that ancestor and much praise to men like Nikola Tesla, all right, who are forgotten and that this society does not want you to know about, which is why they're not taught in modern classrooms and universities. So I want to thank you all of you Magi's, for attending. Let me just read this one. I reared my currently 23-year-old daughter to focus on the divine designated purpose, which fortunately turned out to be children and teaching. Awesome. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for that, sharing that information with us. So I want to thank you all, you Magi's, and until my next broadcast, this is Kasank Ma Keperu, son of Ma'at, and Amun Ra.